want to show you how to properly thread the Bernette 33 and Bernette 35 sewing machines, how to wind a bobbin, how to master the needle threader, and some basics for starting to sew so you will be successful from the first time you put your foot on the foot control. Hi, I'm Sarah from sewingmastery.com, where we do free sewing machine videos on sewing machines, sergers, and embroidery machines. Now you can use these videos for learning how to use your new machine, and you can also use these tutorials to get an overview of whether this machine would be right for you. And all the things that we're talking about, including if you want to buy this machine, there are links in the description below for you to click on. And yes, we do get credit for your purchase, so we thank you in advance. And if you are watching these videos on a phone, remember you can go right here and click more, and it will open up the description and find the links that we're talking about. There's also a wonderful free workbook from Bernette that you can download and follow along, make notes, and it's a great place to kind of give yourself a little bit more than just the basic manual, a little bit more description, and there is a link if you want to make a first-time project, a sewing machine cover that you will find in your manual under that QR code, and there's a free pattern for you to follow along. So as we get started with threading this machine, the very most important thing with a sewing machine is the quality of thread that you pick. When I have found people put quality thread in a basic sewing machine, it works. And those that work with kind of inexpensive thread, or you got to deal with a giant pack and it was, 100 colors for like 20 bucks. I know I'm exaggerating a little, but not really. Those threads are not as great. Or if grandma has gifted you threads from the year 1950, 1960, those threads I would probably also kind of just put aside. Yes, you can use them, but if you're having trouble with your machine, the thread can be the problem. You got to remember that thread makes up 50% of your seam. Between thread and fabric, that's all you're working with. So quality thread will help make those seams hold together better, but it will also make your machine run smoother and give you less headaches. So one of the ones I'll be using is a Mettler thread, super easy. I do use a lot of Isacord thread, and I know it's called embroidery thread, but it's also very, very strong. It's also polyester, so it's actually cheaper than cotton thread. And if I try to break it, it actually, oh my gosh, I always get lines in my fingers when I try to do this and try to tell people I cannot break this. I mean, I'm hurting right here. That's how strong it is. So keep that in mind. Again, because it is such a great thread, you can use this for heavy duty sewing. It has this little cute click on the end. But let's talk about some of the spools that you are picking. And like this one's a little bit taller because we're going to come to the top of the machine. And we're going to pull one of these up. And this is a lot for the machine to have a big old spool up there, and it's heavy. It's going to pull and it's going to make noise every time you go to sew. So one of the things that I highly recommend is actually a thread stand. Now you can find these online, but the one that we've linked to down below is the metal base. So it means that as you're sewing, it's not going to vibrate or fall off the table. But what it has is you're going to set the cone here, and then it's going to go up to the first guide. So we're going to set this off to the side of the machine. And then as we come over to the top of the machine where you'll start to thread it, or go here to wind a bobbin, the thread is not pulling on that spool. It just sits here, goes up to the first guide at the top, and see how it just pulls off and goes right to the top part there. So that would be ideal. The only thing I guide you if you are going to be using a thread stand is that you don't leave thread dangling unattended because it will get caught in your hand wheel. Ask me how I know is because we find lots of thread in the hand wheels when we service machines at our store. So when you're not using that, take the thread off the thread stand, leave it empty and don't leave it dangling. But for today, what we're going to do, this spool is within range of being able to sit up here and pull. Again, if I had a thread stand, I would put that on the side and thread it up just like I showed you, so it's not pulling so much. So let's open up and find an empty bobbin. One of the things that you'll probably want to have is anywhere from 15 to 20 bobbins for most average sewers. So the links below will take you to where you can pick up some extra bobbins. So winding a bobbin is meaning following the dotted lines to this little pre-tensioner. Now the pre-tensioner is what makes the thread wind onto a bobbin nice and even. But if the thread is not in that little, so make sure you click it in there and it sits underneath there. A nice little gentle tension is what we're going to see when we have it threaded correctly. And then in the bobbins, there is actually, oh, you know what? I've got a bobbin with a crack out of it. So we're going to set that aside. Whoopsie. I've actually never seen a plastic bobbin with a crack. It's like a cup. It has a crack. Oh well. Well, look at that. So let's take the thread from the inside here, and I'm coming up through one of the holes from the inside out. And then place your bobbin on the bobbin winder. And there's a picture right up here on top, exactly what you're going to do. This little part we're going to hold on to. Next, slide the bobbin all the way to the right so it engages with this spindle. And this picture indicates that you're going to take the hand wheel and pull it out. So that little click disengages the needle from going up and down. So if you just stepped on your foot control with this in, the machine is going to run while you wind a bobbin, which we don't need it to do. But if we just hold on to this thread, don't let go, hold it straight up, nice and tight, and wind your bobbin. It will either break off, or it broke off but left me this tail. I'm going to take my scissors and cut that tail off. You don't want to have any extra thread coming out the edge of your bobbin when we go to load it into the bobbin case. So I'm always a fan of filling my bobbins all the way up. And if this gets a little rattly, you can always just kind of hold your fingers on it. That's another reason for the thread stand, because it will just sit down there and not actually have to spin. So you will find that the bobbin will stop spinning when it reaches its max point. If it's a little on the shy side, you can always adjust this just a little bit so kind of the filler mark is a little bit further away from the bobbin, just so it can fill up. Just make sure it doesn't go outside the edges of the bobbin. Take your scissors, cut that thread, slide it back to the side, and you're ready to put it into the bobbin case. While we're here, let's go ahead and push that hand wheel back in. The click will re-engage the machine for sewing. And let's continue by putting the bobbin in the bobbin case. Slide the accessory box off to the side, open up the front door, and this is where you might find yourself being a little bit more left-handed because of this little lever. It opens and pulls out really easily if you use your left index finger. And I mentioned there was a bobbin in here, so it's still in there. This little lever, if you hold that out, will not release the bobbin. So release the lever and let the bobbin fall out naturally. There is a proper way to putting a bobbin in the bobbin case. So holding this so you can see the front, I want you to hold the bobbin up so the thread is coming off the right hand side. When you hold it like this and drop it in, you're going to notice that the bobbin is spinning clockwise. If it is flipped over, you're actually not going to get a very smooth feed off of this. So there is a right and wrong way of doing it. So make sure it's spinning clockwise. Then find the little groove on the side of the bobbin case, drop the thread into the groove, hold it at the top and bottom, and then you're bringing the thread across the front of this groove down to where the little C area is. And slowly slide it between the edge and this little cover. When it sits down here in this C area, you'll notice that this thread could actually go on either side of this little finger, can be on the right or left, and then take your left index finger, pull out the latch. That's what you're going to do to hold it, and that finger will be up. You're looking for the little opening at the top where the bobbin case will sit correctly. See that little notch right there? When you put it in, make sure that the finger sits all the way in there, and it should wiggle a little bit but not fall or twist around. So once again, use the lever to pull it out and then push it all the way in. If it doesn't go in all the way, twist it until it sits into the proper place. Once we thread the machine, we will take one stitch and bring this bobbin thread up. So I'm going to go ahead and leave the door open because I want you to see how that looks when we are about to start to stitch. If you are not seeing the take-up lever at the highest position right now, let's go ahead and just turn your hand wheel so it comes all the way up above the housing. This will be where we will always start and stop a stitch when we're ready to lift up the presser foot and slide our fabric out. So just get in the habit of looking at that, and I'll be highlighting that throughout the videos that we're doing. Also, before you thread the machine, reach inside this area and make sure that the presser foot is up. If the foot is down when you thread the machine, part of the area that needs to be open is not. It's closed right here. So presser foot up when you thread the machine. And then this part that we used for winding the bobbin, the little pre-tensioner, we're going to make sure that that thread comes out of there, and we're going to be following the solid lines for threading. I want you to get in the habit of actually threading with your left hand. So you're going to hold the thread with your right hand, bring the thread down through this area here, and right here by this red tension dial is where sometimes people don't get the thread deep enough. So what we're going to do is, as you're threading it, you're going to come down, start going up, because we're going to come up and over the top from the right to the left. But right here, what I want you to do is, if you get in the habit of giving this a little floss, it will make sure the thread goes deep enough and you won't have problems when you start to sew. One of the most common problems people run into is they get big hairy loops on the back of their fabric, and it's because the thread isn't deep enough in this particular area. So if you have trouble, you're going to unthread your machine completely, and you're going to follow this path and do that little flossing motion with the presser foot up, and it will make all your sewing troubles disappear. Okay, here we go. We've come underneath this part, in on the right, down on the left. It will hook into this little area, and then we're coming all the way down to the guides that are at the top of the needle, and then we're going to use the needle threader. There's two guides next. One is at the base of this housing, so just go ahead and slide it around the right side so it goes behind that little bar. And the last guide is at the top of the needle. Take the thread around the left side and bring it in here. There's another one on this side, and that's so when you use a twin needle that we have a thread guide for the two threads that you're using. Okay, the way the needle threader works is, at this point you can lower the presser foot. It actually gives the thread a little tension so it stops kind of sliding out of the machine, and that's really handy. I'm going to first do this without thread, and then I'm going to put thread in it. So this little needle threader comes down, and then it slides forward here, and there's a small little piece of metal coming from the back towards us, and that's what's going to pull the thread through the eye of the needle. So you start by bringing it down about halfway, swoop the thread around the needle threader. I go from the bottom up and then over to this side. Bring the needle threader all the way down, and then make sure it twists all the way into the needle, holding it there. Take your thread, come underneath that little white arm, and notice I'm holding the thread kind of up but not back. So just holding it up, twist the needle threader away from the needle with your left hand, and there'll be a little loop of thread that is drawn through that you're going to get a hold of and pull all the way through. Let me do that one more time just to let you see it. Bring your needle threader halfway down, swoop around it, bring the needle threader down, swivel it to the eye of the needle, come underneath that white arm, gently lift up, And as you swivel the needle threader out of the way, let go of the thread on this side, and that loop will come right through. The last thing that we're going to do is bring this bobbin thread all the way to the top. To do so, you can have the presser foot down or up, but let me just go ahead and lift it up for now. Hold onto this thread with your left hand, and you're going to hand turn the sewing machine's hand wheel towards you, not backwards, but towards you. And then take one full stitch. Do you see that pink thread coming around the front of the bobbin case? That is the top thread coming down and catching and making its first stitch. And this loop of thread is our bobbin thread. So we're going to pull that all the way out to the top, slide both threads down the middle of the foot and to the back, and we are ready to sew. Close up the bobbin case door, slide the accessory box on. At this point, I like to take just a piece of fabric, and we always sew on 2 layers when we're testing or even just when we're sewing things. So take your fabric, fold it in half, and slide it underneath the presser foot enough so when the needle comes down, it will come into your fabric first. Lower the presser foot down, and you'll be ready to stitch. Let's just make sure everything is set up for a straight stitch. Starting with the stitch selection dial for A, for a straight stitch. Stitch length is 2.5, so it's a nice middle of the length, not too long, not too short. And then here, this is going to be put at 5, which, see that little dot in the middle here? That's going to put your needle in the center needle position. So that's already set to go when you start to sew. Stepping on your foot control, and remember your take-up lever should be at the highest position here. So I don't actually have to hold these threads when I'm starting to sew. I'll do a couple rows of stitching so you can see what I'm talking about. So as we sew, we can take a few stitches forward, hold the reverse button down, take a few stitches back to kind of do a little locking. We'll sew all the way to the end. Oh, this is so smooth, so smooth, so smooth. Hold it down, finish up. And when the needle is finished sewing, it's going to stop anywhere within the stitch. So even though it is up and out of the fabric, the stitch is not complete. I need you to get into the habit of coming over here, turning the hand wheel so it brings the needle to the highest position, and then continue turning it until this comes to the very top. At this point, that is when the stitch is complete. You can lift up the presser foot, pull the fabric out to the side. You can use scissors, but you also have a thread cutter right here on the side. So you can take the thread from the front down to the back on the corner, and it will cut your thread. So now when you start to stitch, and oh, look at that, perfect stitching. We can use the little cutter to cut off my little tails at the beginning. But let's just do that again. Slide it in, lower the presser foot down, take up levers at the top here, start to sew. If you want to do the back stitch, hold it down while you sew. Go as far as you want. Stopping. If you stop with and the needle's all the way in the fabric, you could use that for turning, and you can keep on sewing. But when you're ready to complete the stitch, hand wheel, turn it always towards you, never backwards. Bring the take-up lever to the highest position, lift up your foot, and then use the cutter on the side. Makes it oh so easy peasy. If you're looking for seam allowances, we've got markings on the throat plate here where you could have, say, 5/8 of an inch of seam allowance, or whatever your pattern actually guides you to do. And in our next couple of videos, we're going to start to dive into the stitches, how to get different settings and different looks, and start to use some of the fun accessory feet that were included with the Bernette 33 and the Bernette 35 sewing machines. Happy sewing! We'd like to also remind you that if you're loving our videos, that you can click the like button at the beginning, at the middle, or at the end as your way of saying thank you for this free information.